Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations podcast. I have a very special guest for you all on this episode, and of course that is going to be my good friend Dinko, who is the drummer for the UK black metal band Vehement. He also works as a promoter at South Coast Extreme Metal and Doomsday Fest, and he's also a massive supporter of Liverpool Football Club. I'm personally not massively into football, but I thought that this was worth mentioning as a credential, and I can let you people be the judge of that. Of course, I could not end this introduction without mentioning that he is also a professional mixed martial arts fighter. Now, he's certainly a certified badass, much like many of the other guests featured on the Iblis Manifestations podcast. He recently also had a fight and won against a Hungarian gentleman, so we got to talk about that. And we discussed a lot of things on discipline, motivation, keeping things in check, and certain other things, that I think made for an episode that could certainly serve as a great source of motivation. And yeah, I hope that you people will enjoy this one. So yeah, very excited to be sharing this episode with you. As always, thank you all very much for tuning in to the Iblis Manifestations podcast, for listening, for all of your feedback and the very interesting comments, particularly since the last episode. I do very much appreciate all of those interactions. So now, without further ado, allow me to welcome my good friend, Mr. Dinko Pehlic, to Iblis Manifestations. Cool. Nice one. You were saying you're going to fly into Paris tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning I fly to Paris, yeah.
All right. What's the occasion?
Long story short, I booked Holland in 2019. That's how fucking long I've had these fucking flights booked, right? And then everything opened up, but Holland wasn't accepting unvaccinated people. So they gave it to me as a voucher, so I just rebooked somewhere else that happened to be Paris. And now I'm just gonna go. So otherwise I've been waiting 2 years to use these fucking vouchers.
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, I appreciate you taking the time, man, and jumping on, regardless of that schedule. And yeah, so my assumption is going to be that you couldn't go to Holland because of not having had the thing.
Well, I can go now because I think they're opened up now, but I had to book this last year because my vouchers were going to run out,
Right. Interesting. You would say that. I was thinking about this just earlier today. First of all, welcome to the show and everything. It's fucking great to have you.
Thank you.
But this is yeah, absolutely. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while anyway. But just onto that note there, I was thinking about this just earlier today. I was thinking I know I get that the premise was, if you get this thing and then we'll have the gigs back and stuff. Well, some of us didn't, and gigs are back anyway. And I feel like if more of us had stuck to the same thing, that this probably still would have happened anyway. It was.
Listen, I don't like to I'm not a political person. I believe that you can have an opinion, but the second you speak to me about your opinion being a fact, this is where I draw the line with people in conversation. So I'm happy to hear anybody's opinion, but if you're going to push your opinion as a fact, it's no longer an opinion, then the conflict begins there. So I have I don't want to call it an agenda too much, but I don't think it was right that it was pushed on people like myself, yourself, that wouldn't in any other circumstances do that, and then blackmail us by being well, I'll give you your gigs back. You can go on holiday. I'd rather go live in the woods for the rest of my life and never go anywhere again than bend over and be blackmailed like that, you know. So
I feel you, man.
that's my 2 cents on that, you know.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
This isn't like an anti. I've just let all the moths in. Hold on a second. Let me just close these windows up before I carry on.
Sure. Well, no. First off, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly, is precisely how I think about it as well. And I feel like it was a form of almost psychosis left behind, which you can still sort of see the trails of it at the, you know, just at the cost of basically running a global business. That's kind of how I see it now, especially.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as obviously all the other things attached to it as well, which is fucking bullshit.
No doubt, brother. No doubt. The problem is some people, it doesn't affect that much, you know. I know people who are like, oh, my life hasn't really changed. And I'm like, I'm fucking hiding inside a gym from the police. Not going to say what gym. But, you know, I've never known. We can honestly look back at this and say there was a time that I could order a KFC legally and have it brought to my front door, but it was illegal for me to go to the gym.
Yeah, that tells you all you need to know, man. I mean, I said this to so many of my friends at the time. I said, look, for us in Trivex, I mean, especially myself and Sully, but myself over in Iran, it's like, this is not a new thing that it's illegal to do this. So if we're gonna have to do it under other circumstances, then fucking so be it. You know, this is, you know, why we're doing this is not to just go along with what the establishment asks us to do. The whole point of the fucking thing is to just, for it to be freedom, not just for the sake of just shitting on what the laws and the rules and regulations are at the time, but for the sake of having the freedom of expression, but also, more importantly, freedom of movement, even, which none of us even really considered until recently. So,
you know, that's so true, because yeah. I think like there's a big connection between music and your well-being, like taking care of yourself physically and mentally, because there's a reason we do the type of extreme music that we do. Is obviously we need to be free in our minds. We need to we've obviously got something in our heads that's like locked in that we can only express through something that's not as common, what people are used to. And, you know, everyone can do fitness, but not everybody does it to like an extreme where you go like every day. Like, for example, myself, yourself, most likely you probably go more than the average person. And that's obviously because you need it, right? It's a form of expression. And when that's threatened, you know, that's part of the reason myself and yourself and people that we know, like, fell in love with the extreme side of music, is because it gave us this massive feeling of expression. Like, that's why we do it, right? Because, like, it's hard for me to feel myself. I feel myself the most when I'm performing music or when I'm in the gym. That's when I'm really who I want to be. And you can't be that 24/7. You know, I can't go to work and be that guy, because I'm surrounded by people that aren't of that culture. And that's absolutely fine. But I need to go somewhere to vent that, to like release that, you know. And some of us are just more extreme than others. We need to vent it weekly, daily. Some people can do it like fucking once a month.
I think that a lot of this also comes back down to the level of emotional intelligence that you'll have, as well as certain things, just like general drive. And, you know, like some people are just generally more driven than others, you know, and you need to go for it. And sometimes if you're not exercising that, it's like it becomes something that internally eats away at you, I feel. So I think so I think that I mean, especially as men, you need the outlets, you need the way to exercise and express that fire that is within you. I mean, it's funny just what you said as well, that you can't be like that 24 hours. I recently had Okoye from Bolzer on, and we were saying exactly the same thing. Like, who you are on stage, that's one thing. That's 100% a part of you. But then what you are off stage, that's still a part of you too. It's just that you can't be either one all the time. You need the exercise. I think an exercise is really the best way to look at this.
Absolutely. I wouldn't like flip them roles around, right? Imagine being the guy you are on stage as the guy you are most commonly. So like how we are right now is just sure. Fucking hell, we wouldn't be able to have a conversation right now. You'd be fucking crazy. That's why that energy is short lived, but it's huge. And it's a short lived moment. Like when we perform, it's 45 minutes, 1 hour, whatever, done. And that's more energy exerted in that there, because when you feel yourself, you put 10 times more energy into it. You know, I don't put energy into anything like I do with music or with training. Obviously training is more physical, but the music that we perform is physical. You know, we're not acoustic bands sitting on our ass performing. And I'm not dissing that, like that's somebody's outlet, and I respect that, but the energy is completely different. So yeah, it's important to have those outbursts, almost like call them outbursts, because you got to break up that mundane day-to-day life. Even if your day isn't like a regimented 8 till 4, 9 till 5 job, you know, things still become complacent, and complacency, I always say complacency kills. Complacency will kill everything that you own. It'll kill your relationships. It'll kill your friendship. I think it even kills people. People just become complacent in life. They do the same thing for 20 years and they have enough of it. Like some people just can't handle it either, you know? So it's so important, I think, to have an outlet, like whatever.
You're preaching to the choir, man. 100%. I mean, this is something I have said for many years, and the thing that I feel, personally speaking, the biggest transformation in my life came when I realized, this is that comfort is your enemy. That's not your friend. You know, you're supposed to embrace the discomfort and the thing that you kind of try to find excuses around not doing it. That's the thing that you should be doing. You know, I mean, we're talking now. I literally only just finished the back session about 45 minutes ago. So I'm like, yeah. That I said, you gotta murder the pussy that's inside you, even if it has 9 lives. And it definitely has. It has way more lives than I think a lot of us expected to have. But the thing that I think
every week.
Yeah.
No,
that's it.
You got to keep killing it every week, non-stop, for forever.
Yeah, that's it. It's like Jesus. It keeps coming back to life, or supposedly anyway. Yeah, but
you said like, what did you say, that it's the enemy, you know, and what did you say? You said like complacency, like it's the enemy, like it, and that's true. That's true, because like being like that, being complacent, like will make you complacent with how the people that you led in your life. And once you're complacent with people, these are the people that will fucking bend you over and take things from you, man. Like, I'm not saying you need to be on edge with people, but I think I learned as I got older, and now I'm going to show my age. As you get older, you pick your circle much tighter, you know, pick your circle much closer, surround yourself with like-minded people, because like-minded people don't take their time for granted, you know. And that's the one thing that we never get back. This conversation right now, as this happens, time's going, but we're doing something productive with it, so it's cool, you know. But like, man, people just waste their with complacency. The biggest thing that you lose is time.
Definitely, and it's like time is gonna go away anyway, so you can choose how you want to spend it, right? You can either throw it all away, you know, just there's options, you know what I mean? Like you can think, oh well, what's the point to anything? You may as well kill yourself, you know. And it's like that's the least option I would encourage anyone, but it's still an option, right? Or you can do that.
There's always an option.
Well, yeah, exactly. You can either do that, or you can. Or
there's nothing to do. I don't know what to do. There's no option. There's always an option.
Yeah, exactly.
Really,
so you can
bad options, you know.
And that's the point I'm trying to get to, is that you can either do that, or you can get off your ass and fucking do something about it. If there's something you're passionate about doing, you can focus more of your time on that. You know, and you mentioned a very, very crucial thing there as well about the kind of people that you're surrounded by, and especially as you get older, you realize this. You know, for me, when I look back at the transformations that I experienced in my life, particularly starting from 2017, and then by like 2019, 20, what it was like the peak of this transformation, where it sort of, I mean, it's obviously constantly going, but that was one of the biggest side effects of this, or the receipts, I should say, was that the people that were very close to me in my life started, that started changing. Some obviously stayed. For example, the two guys in the Trivex currently, and there's some things that stay, but then many other things sort of, we had to part ways, because you can outgrow situations, and you never realize how much one person or a couple of people could be holding you back in life until they're no longer in your life, and that you've stepped away from it, and you can take a look and see how their behavior was affecting you, essentially.
You know what? Like, we're all guilty of complacency. So when I speak about this, I'm not saying it like I'm preaching, like, oh, I've cured complacency, I don't suffer from it. Man, we're complacent in our lifestyle. We're complacent with our music choices, and we're complacent with our active choices. But there's a difference between complacency that kills and complacency that stunts growth, and personal achievement. But yeah, like what you said there is you become blind to things like that. But I think it's really important. Like, I think everybody experienced this the most in unison during the lockdown periods, because I think you learn very, very quickly who is friend, who you outgrow, and who is foe. And unfortunately, I like to say I didn't have any foes, but I think it's important not to be angry with people that you outgrow, because a lot of time it might be your own growth or their own growth, and you can't be bitter towards somebody who outgrew you because you stagnated and they didn't. Your paths just swapped. But there's definitely, understanding, like what you said there, where people are affecting you in a negative way. And like a lot of times, like some of my friends who had some issues and stuff, I said to them, listen, like, these people are your friends. They don't mean you any harm, but their lifestyle is detrimental to yours. You don't sync. You're not synced. And when you're synced with their lifestyle, you leave negative. They don't. So for some people, it's like difficult to like let go of people. I'm like, these people can still be your friends. I don't see or speak to you all the time, but I think of you as a friend because of how many times we've met. And that's why we're having this conversation. Like, my growth will never affect your growth. We have that distance where we can move in and out. But if we were together all the time and something was, you were living your life how you choose to live it, but it was affecting me negatively, it's really important before you get too fucking old to start, distancing yourself from these things. And you distance yourself from something and you watch your life suddenly drastically change. And you know what? It changes super fucking quick. And I think, again, this falls back to the complacency factor. People are just too scared to take that risk of change. And it's just like, I had it, we've all had it. I had it multiple times. I was like, why am I afraid to try? Because like right now things are shit. Is it going to get any worse? If I remove something, how can it possibly get worse? But it's convincing yourself of that. And that's why I say, because complacency can be a killer. It can be a killer with music. You can just be like, oh well, that'll do. That's okay. Keep that. And I think when that happens, I always say to myself, man, when the day comes and I don't dissect and rip to pieces something that I have written or something that I'm part of, if I just kind of go, yeah, that works, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's like saying I've completed it. No matter what the fuck I release, it's great. I'm done. Fuck, man, I'm not Dave Mustaine. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen.
I think there's one thing that we should really clarify as well, and I think I can think of a good way to put this across as well. So we're obviously talking about complacency and comfort and how it's a killer, and I think a lot of people, especially modern society, maybe don't really even have the correct relationship with that, because of course you're gonna want comfort. Of course you're gonna want to sit and, like how everyone always says, oh, they just want the easy life. They just want to win the lottery and sit on their ass. It makes sense why we might have these goals, but these are goals that are actually detrimental to our well-being. And I'll explain that, because you got to think of what we've come from, what our DNA responds to, what our ancient psyche seeks within this world, and that is that, of course, it's from a hunter-gatherer background. And you've got to understand, even like our relationship with food, people wake up and then the first fucking thing that they do in the morning is they fucking guzzle on cereals and, spike their fucking insulin resistance and everything. And then wonder why they're tired for the rest of the day. It's like you're supposed to, even if you're surrounded by comfort, even if you've got all the accessibilities of life, in order to have the best quality within life and be the best, healthiest version of yourself, is that you need to embrace the older way, or at least this is my viewpoint of this, but I'm sure you can back me up on this. So think of it like this. You have to use what's available within this world to create almost simulations of survival for yourself. So if you don't have to go and run after some animals and try and hunt and things like that, then create some kind of a simulation for that. Go to the gym, go fight, train fighting, or just do something. Do something that's challenging, be it for the mind or the body. I think both are extremely important. And then you can reward yourself in small doses, or in healthy doses, I should say, after that. Does that make sense? Because then you're kind of recreating the cycle of life for yourself as it should be. And I feel like a lot of us are missing that because we are still stuck in this mode where you're just supposed to constantly seek dopamine after dopamine, and everyone's addicted to shitty like fucking sugar foods. They don't have any appreciation of physical difficulties, where it's like you don't have any reason to do these things because you have what you want available. So that kind of breaks this the sort of the cycle of nature. So what you need to do is you yourself must develop the discipline to take a step back to be able to add these challenges to your life. And then automatically after that, you'll just feel so much happier and you'll live your life to a much higher potential, I feel.
To back up your theory, I'll tell you what my Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday sometimes routine is.
Sure.
The moment I wake up, it's a very short-lived period between me waking up and me being up. Now, if I get up and I relax and I sit, that to me is the same as staying in bed. So because of the amount that I do, relaxation can actually be problematic for me. So the more my body doesn't move, the more I ache. But to touch on your theory about that and why it's so relevant, what you just said to my day to day, is the moment I get up, I'm up. I'm up, and within 45 minutes of being awake, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I hit a circuit straight away, 6:30 a.m. Without a shadow of a doubt, I train. Tuesdays, Thursdays, usually 6 a.m., then it'll be normal gym, not circuits, or it'll be sparrings, or it'll be technique, or it'll be drilling. So that to me is my up and foraging period. I'm out straight away. I'm moving. That's like what you said. It doesn't need to be those things. But I think when you're up, get up. Don't get up and be like, oh, well, I'm vertical, and then sit back down. Because that's essentially the same thing. Your heart rate is, your body isn't pumped blood. You're like chasing those, like you say, like they'll settle for what's there for you. You'll have your coffee. Sure, I get up, I slam a coffee. That's cool. But I'm up. I don't think I rarely even sit down like my coffee, because it's boom, blast, and go. Then I eat after, usually. Sometimes I might have something before, but generally my reward is after, And my day, if I don't do that, if I break that cycle for too long, my energy is like this.
Yeah.
Like down. And throughout the day, it goes down. People are like, oh man, you must be so fucking tired at work. Like you train in the morning. I'm like, no. Like I start my day like that and I go boop and I go up. I do have a point like maybe in the afternoon where I'll start to slowly come down, but I know that's about an hour before I'll go and do something physical again, whether that be a quick hour on the drums and then to the gym. Like sometimes I finish work and then I have like a 2-hour gap if I don't have clients. I'll come and I'll work in the drum room, and then straight from there, boom, go to the gym. So again, it falls down to that line. Like I always say to like my clients, I say to them, when you finish work, don't go home and sit down. If you know you're going to see me in 2 hours, don't go home and sit down. Go home, eat, move around, do your thing, get down here early, do something, keep moving. Like the moment you sit down, the body relaxes, the heart rate goes down, and then your mind starts to go, what have I got in the house? Oh yeah, I've got like fucking 10 fucking Mars bars or some shit. You know?
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Like just keep it moving. It's just so important. But that morning schedule for me, that is what sets my day. That is what sets my day right up. Like when I break that routine, which does happen, like it does happen, very rarely, but it fucks me. Like it fucks me, and it fucks me mentally. Like it fucks me physically, it drowses me out. But the worst case is it fucks with my head, and it makes the rest of the day harder, and then it makes it more of a struggle when I go hunting that in the evening. You know, it makes it more of a struggle. Whereas when I know I've done that session in the morning, when I get to that evening, I feel I'm tired physically, but not mentally. Mentally, I'm like, go. And that's 90% of it. Like your body and shit will do amazing things. But if your mind isn't in it, you're fucked. You're fucked. Like it's just not going to take you where your potential can go for that one particular day. You know, and the mind is a powerful fucking thing. Sometimes the days when I really am so, wanting to go and have the best whatever it is that I'm doing that day, I swear sometimes I can want it so bad that I end up having a bad session, or that whatever I was doing was bad. Sometimes when I really don't want to do it, I take myself there. When I really don't want to do it, but I force myself to go, which is fighting against the mind, which is really important, I have the most fucking amazing time.
That's such a weird one. Yeah, I've seen people, like, I've done it to myself where, like, for example, I'm anticipating something so much that I actually make myself feel sick when it comes to it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a show and you think about it every single day, like, leading up to it, and then, like, the night before you somehow end up getting, like, injured or end up getting sick or, like, end up getting a migraine on the day. It's weird. Like, we definitely have that kind of a thing, so it's sometimes good to, of like focus on something, but just keep moving forward. And, I think it's very valuable what you just said there. Our bodies, we need to, I think, yeah, exactly. You need to follow that you need to follow the pattern that it is actually designed for, but also challenge what you already think it's capable of. See, not everyone has to wake up at 6:30 in the morning. Like for me to have initially dropped all the weight that I did and do all of that, I didn't have to do any of that. All I did was just lift weights, learn what I was actually doing, and gain more knowledge about diet and things like that. Philosophy has helped me a lot. Everything that you and I are just talking about right now, because I think it sort of it bridges a gap between sort of like the sentimental thought processes as well as actual science that helps you get in better shape and get healthier. And I think that
there are definitely fact things, like science is definitely a factual massive part of that process. But philosophy, like, just, I always say, preach to yourself. Take the preachers and absorb them to yourself. I'm not a big fan of preaching the philosophy that works for me to others, because I think it's something that you need to find yourself. You can't just relate to the words that resonate to me. Some you can, most of them you can't. I just think it again goes back to my thing when, you don't talk to me about an opinion like it's a fact. At that point, I don't listen to you anymore. Yeah. I'll say to you, hey, this is what works for me. This is like my journey. Like you can find something to emulate your own version of it. But, it's just so important that, like, you have to be, like, to mix that for yourself personally. The science for everyone, the philosophy for one's being, like for oneself, for definite,
I was gonna ask you this as well, because obviously, like, this is actually what I was going to start a conversation with, but I think it now ties in perfectly with what we're talking about. Obviously, we know that since what you mentioned earlier, you don't receive jabs, but you definitely deliver them. So, do tell us, how was your last fight, man? Because it looked like you fucking smashed that guy.
It was nice, man. Like, it was cool to be back. Like, I didn't, my life is just fucking whirlwind of, like, two different worlds with, like, the training and the music. And they don't. I try to make them not conflict each other, but they're so time consuming because they're such time consuming personal things, you know.
Did you have to like cut weight or anything? Because I would imagine like this is another reason why I just brought this up is because you're talking about the almost like this sort of the commitment that you have to yourself and your discipline, and how if you don't do things fully, it'll fuck with you mentally. I imagine a fight, that's a situation with very high consequences, and be it the moral, but obviously the physical as well. There's very high consequences. So I would imagine that discipline has to be even more on point for something like that. So tell me a little bit about even just the preparation for something like this. Did you have to cut weight, or what was sort of your routine like going into it?
So I did about 5 kilos the day before the weigh-in. So that's just under a stone, and I'll do that in the sauna with a sweatsuit. But obviously, before that, it's like the food that you take is super detrimental to how well you cut. So it has to be super clean. Fortunately, it wasn't that much. You know, I'll naturally cut down to like 74, 75, and then I'll do the rest. So I have to be 70.5 max on the day of the weigh-in. The weigh-in is always 24 hours before the fight. So the night before, I'll cut that. So yeah, I cut that in maybe like, I don't know, an hour and a half in the sauna it took maybe, which is a fucking long time when you're in a sauna.
You know? What kind of temperature are you going for?
I don't know, whatever it maxes out at, because we chuck water on the back of the machine to really, it's fucking hot, bro.
Right. Oh, so like okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like a manual one, basically.
Yeah, there's a proper sauna near here where I go to cut my weight usually, but yeah, there's, like you say, there is massive consequences. Like I used to fight a lot when I was younger. I don't fight as often now, since turning to pro rules in mixed martial arts. Don't fight as often. Obviously, I didn't fight. Last time I fought was like 2019. I didn't want to fight during the lockdowns because it defeated the purpose for me. It's like playing a gig to no people, you know. We've all done that at some point, but but you know, yeah. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to fucking fight without an audience. And then the way the world was going, I was like, you know what, I may as well, because like I don't know, nobody knew what the fuck was going on, you know, like when things were going to be available again. But then obviously everything kind of like returned to whatever this is now, and because the music stuff at the moment is in writing mode and we're not gigging much at all, there was this big window opportunity for me to just like, obviously I train every day and I teach and all that stuff, but there was just that big window opportunity for me to get a camp in and just like really commit all my time and energy into that, whilst obviously like still obviously like working with the guys on the material and stuff for the music, but where we weren't having to prep for anything but writing, there's just all this time I had on my hands. It gave me a big opportunity, and I had a big hunger point with the new team that I'm working with and all the guys that I'm working with now. I just had a big window opportunity to get some real high level prep in with some really good guys, and just focused on managing it. So, and it went, you know, based on the performance, it went really, really well. So yeah,
that was a lot of blood, man. You had a lot of blood. Yeah,
man.
Looked like you had just joined Watain or something.
I said to Kuba from Nahimia, I said, bro, anytime you need some blood for your set, just let me know. I'll hook you up.
Nice. Yeah, how did that feel, man? How did it feel to be covered in the blood of your opponent? What does that do to your psyche to just walk around, stand around?
I've had my blood dripping on me before. So know, they say sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, you know? And on that occasion, I was definitely the hammer, but I've experienced what it feels like to be the nail as well. And so I never wish anything, you know, at the end of the day, like as ruthless as the sport is in terms of things like that, you know, there's no like animosity in that situation.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So to be honest with you, the blood was actually more of a fucking inconvenience towards the end of that round, because it was very difficult to work with trying to posture up and land more strikes, because every time I came up onto my feet, there was so much blood between my toes and we trailed around the whole thing. it was like Bambi on ice, you know, like trying to like fucking posture up was just almost impossible. And then it was in my face, so like at one point I think they were confused as to who the fuck was actually bleeding anymore. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, like the concept of the blood wasn't actually really a thing until the doctors waved it off. So we finished the second round. There's 3 5-minute rounds in pro mixed martial arts. We finished the second round. My corner pulled me away. His corner pulled him away. I see the doctors coming in. My coach comes up to me and he's like, "Be ready," but I think they're going to fucking call it off. Because at this point, he's just so red, you can't really see what's happened to him. So obviously, like the elbows did it, but like you can't.
It's like full on Nate Diaz.
Full on, yeah, bro. And they wiped him down, and then you could see the laceration was like near the eye, under the eye, on the head, and the doctors was just like waved it off. And I think in that moment when they waved it off is when I kind of like looked around me because like I was still like maintaining focus that there's going to be another fucking round. We've got to fight again. So I'm kind of just looking at him, not really taking in the surroundings. The place is going fucking wild. And then when they waved it off, I think that moment was when I kind of like noticed the surrounding. The fucking place was just a bloodbath. And then I kind of like, because I can't see myself, I was walking around, I like looked at my feet, I think, and I walked to like the side where some of my friends were, and everyone's going fucking crazy. And in that moment, you kind of soak it in. You kind of soak in that you kind of enjoy the barbaric undertone of it, you know, that primal. There's like, it's hard to explain to anybody that hasn't been in that scenario where it's just you and one other person, and the only thing that separates life and death is the fact that there's a referee. So if you want to strip everything away, if this was like a scenario where, because essentially you're going in to fight a stranger, if this was a scenario anywhere else in the world, down a dark alleyway, he might want to kill me. I don't fucking know.
Just even on a nature level, when, you know, it's like if two animals meet like that, then that's, yeah.
So that's why our job is to keep hitting them or strangling them or whatever position you're in until the referee pulls you off. Obviously, there's a sportsmanship element to it. Like if like people that I've submitted before in fights, when they tap, I just let them go because I know in that moment that I'm not fighting to death. You know, we separate those senses. But like in that moment when you win, like, you know, it's an insane feeling. And that time was definitely more different, like, because like I said, I soaked in the moment after it kind of happened. And then I noticed, but to be fair, like it wasn't really until I walked backstage and I was walking down, because it was a big place, that sports arena in Crystal Palace. We were walking all the way down, like you go like underground, it's a fucking huge place. And you know, from your set, blood dries fucking quick on your skin, especially when you're under the lights, you know. And obviously the same as performing on stage, the same as fighting, those lights are fucking bright and they're hot. And I was walking down and I said to my coach, I said, "Bro," I said, have I got any blood on my face? Because my face feels super tight, like somebody was like pulling my skin. And he goes, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And we walked into the fucking the changing room. He goes, "Go look in that mirror." And I walked up to the mirror and I was mortified. I was like, because I remember like, oh man, I was like walking around the cage, like pumped up, like after winning those. And then I watched the footage back. I looked like a fucking wild man, which really isn't who I like am in day-to-day life. But, like, some people don't know me very well from this gym where I'm at the moment. Like when I see them now, they were like, "Yo, like I'm just."
But that's a part of it, man. Come on, I mean,
that's a part of it. Yeah, for sure. But when I saw myself, man, it was like, it was fucking everywhere, man. It was under my fingernails, my toes, my back, and I was like, "Fucking hell!" Like it was a wild experience. And I'd like to say, like, I've had so many fights and I've experienced like some cool stuff, and now I can, I guess, tick off another box, you know, like the bloodbath box, I guess, can be ticked off. Like, you know,
how do you?
Like I said, not that you wish that on anybody, like.
No, but it's still something that happened, right? You know, and it's a part of the game, I suppose.
You know, somebody said to me, funnily enough, 2 days ago or yesterday, like, how do you put yourself in that position where you can throw those elbows? And I'm like, because if the roles were reversed, he would fucking throw them back at me.
Yeah.
Like, it's as simple as that. When someone's just said to me, "How do you get the motivation to train every day?" I'm like, because somewhere that guy flew in from fucking Hungary. He flew in from Hungary to have a fight. Everyone who's getting on a plane to come and fight you isn't joking around. Yeah, he ain't getting on that fucking plane for 3 hours to come take that beating unless he thought he had something to give back, which he did, you know? Obviously, it just looked more one-sided than what it was. But that guy was fucking tough, man. Like, I'll tell you something about him. This is fucking nuts.
Sure.
Whilst you're in a dominant position and you're landing strikes on somebody, especially on the ground, you have to be what's known as an active fighter, even if you're on the receiving end of the strikes. By that, the referee wants to see you moving. If you just cover up, it's over. If you don't move, well, you'll probably just get knocked out anyway. It's over. Or, you know, submissions and stuff, whatever. Every time I was like landing big shots on him, the referee, I could hear him saying, you know, keep moving. You have to show me something. And he was actively moving. But every time like a big shot landed on him and blood was fucking everywhere, he looks at the ref and goes, I'm okay. Bam, I'm okay. Bam, I'm okay. Like 3 times he said, and I'm looking at him going, and at one point, I swear to God, I looked at the ref and I was like, he's fucking not okay, bro. Look at him. So calm in his voice. Eating these shots like they were sandwiches. I'm okay. I was like, fuck me, you're definitely not okay, but you are like one of the toughest human beings like ever, man. Like, so we had a good chat afterwards. Like, he's a tough guy, man. Like I said, he was like an undefeated guy from Hungary. He definitely wasn't coming there to lose. He did pick me up once and slam me pretty hard in that fight. And that's all I remember. Like, when he slammed me and I managed to get back up, I was thinking, I don't want to be underneath him because I know what I've just done to him in the first round. If you ever reverse a position on somebody, you want to really get that payback fast.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Sure.
So, you know, it's interesting that it seems like it's a very strange thing, as I was explaining to somebody the other day, like that guy that said, how do you do something like that? How do you have that kind of like in you to that? But I'm like, but the weirdest thing, like after the fight, you just hug and shake hands and have a chat and it's cool. I've had animosity with people before, but like only one time or a couple of times out of like 14, 15 times. All the other guys were cool. The couple of times that I lost, I didn't act like a dick about it afterwards. Shake hands. Every dog has his day, you know. Like, we lose all the time. I consider a shit sounding gig a loss, you know. Like, oh, that sounds like shit. That's a loss, you know.
And the best you can do is really take that and just try to get better from it rather than let that just define you. But I think on the other side of the coin, I feel that a win or a victory could, at least speaking on personal experience, I feel like that is something that if you're not conditioned for it, that can fuck you up way more than a loss, I feel. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because, yeah, at the height of it, it might feel like, oh, yeah, fuck. Why would a win fuck you up? Because that's now how you might define yourself. You know, do you know what I'm saying? And
winning,
and you've now got something to lose. But yeah,
winning teaches you fuck all. Fuck all. Let me tell you what winning teaches you. Winning teaches you that feels good. That feels nice. So when I first started competing, I went 5-0. I won 5 fights in a row, and all that happened just went to my head. I learned absolutely nothing. I changed nothing. I went out and performed the exact same way. And then eventually, what happens is you accumulate footage of yourself being repetitive and complacent in what you do, that when I went to fight this guy and got my ass handed to me, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what? Like, how did that not work? How did he, like, literally I fucked up and he countered everything that I did and I lost. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it just made no sense because I learned absolutely nothing from winning. Second I lost, went back to the gym like 2 days after. And I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, what did I do? This. Change this, change that. Became a completely different competitor. Came out, performed completely differently, added new tools. So you learn so much from losing. It can fucking break you. I know guys who competed once, lost, never came back. Guys who competed a few times, they won, lost, never came back. So like losing can be detrimental to people's psyche as well, depending on how they deal with loss. Like some people do very well
process
winning,
it, I guess.
Winning can definitely fuck you up so bad because you learn absolutely nothing apart from it feels good. Like if I go to a gym and nobody in that gym can test me and I beat everybody up, I don't learn anything apart from I just beat them up. Or I train with somebody who's fucking 50 kilos lighter than me and they can't bench press whatever and I can, and then I say to them, you know, you do it, they can't do it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what do I learn from that? Oh, that I can lift more. doesn't teach me anything. Like, I learned absolutely nothing apart from my ego gets a little stroke. And that's another form of, that's something else that breeds complacency. So, like, I teach beginners, I teach guys like who I teach guys who have competed professional level, I teach guys who have never fucking put on a pair of gloves. But I take myself, I go to other gyms where I know these guys, there's so many guys that are better than me, because that's the only way you'll never be complacent. And complacent in fighting is a fucking massive no-no. Like, massive, I believe so anyway, personally, like, massive no-no, because I've felt what it, for one split second, what it feels like to be complacent in the game. And I got my ass handed to me, So, and that's a horrible feeling. That's much worse than anything, but you learn something from it. So, like, losing is just important. I think it's the same as in life, like, everybody loses, just people just don't like that. And I don't like losing. I fucking hate it. I'm an ultra competitive person. Like, you put your hand to me and we play thumb wars, bro, it's war. It's on.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
you know? Like, I'm an ultra competitive person, and there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. Obviously, like, I don't do it to be like a dick about it or anything, but man, you have to take them losses and, like, learn from it and change, like, massively. And I think that was another big thing, like, during that lockdown period. Like, if you didn't do something productive with all that fucking free time, when they took shit away from you, like, if you did nothing but wait for shit to come back, I feel fucking sorry for you. Like, it was an opportunity to grow, even a little person as an individual, even if it meant something stupid like going somewhere you never thought you could go, or walking somewhere, or just doing anything. Like, you didn't do something for yourself in that period of time, and you just sat around waiting and just listening to the bullshit that was being just hauled into your fucking face. I genuinely feel sorry for these people the most, because that's losing without learning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I feel very much the same, man. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier about how my own approach was developing throughout the whole experience. It was like every time there was a lockdown, I was dealing with it differently. Every time it happened, I was like, kind of just progressing and learning. I mean, like the first one when it started, I mean, I was completely fucked up. But, and then it's just like throughout the whole thing, it started off by being like, oh, okay, stay in, and then like paranoid about all surfaces and things like that. And then slowly it's like, yeah, this is not working. And, you just eventually you just set your own rules, and that's what you follow. And you know what? I'm glad that I'm going to call it an opportunity, because that's how I looked at it. And I think this is exactly how you could perceive any loss, is you can look at it as an opportunity or any form of obstacle, that this is now going to offer you a perspective that's going to allow you to better yourself. Because, Dinko, I tell you, I make an example here as well of what I mean by seeing it as an opportunity. This is a conversation I had with myself earlier. I was doing a deadlift. And actually, like, honestly, I haven't really done them a lot for the last, for the majority of this year, because I did a long cutting phase, and then after that, I've just been back at maintenance, and only now I'm just towards the end of my maintenance phase, where I've been trying to build back some strength, and I'm back at, like, deadlifting properly. And earlier, I did one with, it was like where my last PR was, and I was trying to do the rep. I was doing it without a belt, without any grips or anything like that. And I came all the way up, so I could feel that I had the strength, but my hand slipped and the weight fell out of my hands. And I just kind of got a bit like, fuck. And then immediately I got rushed with these thoughts of, oh, well, if I had the grip, then this wouldn't have happened. If I had dried the bar, this and that. And then I was like, Cheyenne, shut the fuck up. You could not lift that. You, at this moment in time, did not possess the strength to fucking lift that thing. So you're gonna come back with like fucking all the grip shit and all the gloves or belt or whatever. That's all fucking excuses. You chose to lift this without any of those equipment, and it didn't work, right? So now don't start making excuses to yourself that you should have, or like you could have. No. Now you just have to fix and improve your grip strength so that doesn't happen next time. Yeah, and then I was like,
it's attacking the source of the problem.
Yeah.
Rather than tiptoeing around the actual issue, and all you do is create a whole bunch of other issues that aren't fucking relevant.
Yeah.
You know? That's a good. That's what I would say is like an experienced mind in terms of mentality for training. Something that you kind of have to go through levels, like as you get stronger, as you get fitter, as you get faster. It's only when you start upping those levels that you suddenly stagnate again. And complacency again seems to be, I think, the topic of the day. But you get that in training, right? Like you can easily be like, oh, I'll just stick to the mark that I know I can hit.
Yeah.
And not take risks like that. Because they are risks. Everything we do that involves lifting something heavy, sparring, fighting, there's a risk element to all of this shit. There's a risk element to walking out your fucking front door. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, you know? But what's important there is what you said is telling yourself when to stop and assess the situation. And, you know, like there are obvious things that we need for training, like equipment wise sometimes. But there are some things when you go back to like primal times and not necessarily primal times, but times when we didn't have the equipment or the technology that we have now, people were lifting fucking whatever they could.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't designed to be lifted or perfect. And what excuses could they have made then? None, apart from go lower, increase, and build up slower, or improve whatever element was lacking, in your case, the grip, you know, rather than being like, well, that belt wouldn't have fucking held out for you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like things like that.
And this is
shitting yourself in case you lifted it too heavy.
can't say, you know what? I can't say that's ever happened to me, but I know that's still a possibility. And if that happens too, then fucking so be it. You know, you shit yourself. But I think for
time, I'm like, listen, man. Like, I'm notorious for making people feel sick with the conditioning stuff that I put them through. And I'm like, listen, if you puke, like, that's cool. Let me tell you why that's cool. Because that means I know you're giving every fucking ounce of strength to the point that your body is now starting to say no, it's too much. And that means I know that your mind has let you go to your fucking maximum. But so many people think of it as a weakness. They think, oh no, because that's happening to me, I suck. Or that's happening to me, I'm shit. But like, you tried to lift that today, you could have not lifted that today. And we wouldn't have had this conversation. And you wouldn't have learned something from it. You would gain no knowledge about yourself. So today you learn, okay, this is what I need to work on. You know?
Exactly.
And that cruising, right? You lift that today? Cool, wicked. That's awesome. That's an achievement, 100%. But what do you learn? That you need to go up another level until you hit that wall, and that happens. Because
it's finding the ceiling within yourself so that you can now basically you now have a target and you can smash through that, and then you can keep pushing further and further. And you know, for me as well,
we never call it losing in the gym. We only call it learning. We always call it learning. There's no losing in the gym. We always call it learning.
Well, exactly, because that's only just the negative. Because at the same time, I still walked away from that place with the knowledge and understanding that at this moment in time, I am the strongest, the leanest, and the fittest, and easily the most amount of muscle mass I've ever had in my life. And I'm damn fucking proud of that. You know, and the only real value to the quote unquote loss, or the learning, if you will, from the example of dropping the weight is that, okay, now that's another area that needs work. That's good, because now you've got something to work on, and when you work on that, then you'll get even closer to, you get even better. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, it all works in tangent, you know, and I'm just, what I was doing there, I was sharing my own internal process with you, because it's so easy to give excuses, you know, it's so easy to be complacent, as we keep saying. It's so easy to just say, oh, I could have done this, I should have done that. You know, like if you, for example, let's say there's a gig that gets announced, and all of your mates' bands are on there, but you never got asked to play it. And then you might think to yourself, oh, we should have played that. Why didn't they ask us? Does a promoter got a fucking problem with me? And it's like, no, that's just, maybe you just weren't on their mind at that time when that happened, you know?
My list of 1 million fucking emails of all the bands that want to play my shows.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you are putting on some really great shows down there. So I think it's that, it's that mindset, man. It's cool. You just focus on you. Think what it is you could maybe do better. If you already think you're doing a good job, just keep doing it. Don't take things like that personally, and just always strive to get fucking better. I think that's a very important lesson that I think everyone could pay attention to.
A second ago, when you said like that you're proud of it, like I think the biggest problem that people diss each other for, not entirely face to face, is like people have this big thing about like people posting like their achievements, and some people view it just as vanity, and some people view it as this, and some people view it as that, and all this shit. Of course, like everything can have too much, Like I watch some people, and I'm like, man, you filmed yourself doing fucking squats 3 days in a row. Like, what have you learned from the same fucking thing? Too much, but still, like, I don't touch it upon that field because.
And most importantly, you're not getting enough recovery. But yeah.
Yeah. One thing that like my coach said to me recently, I still call him my coach because he's still my coach, but he lives in Cyprus now. I went to Cyprus in July. And he said something really important to me, and it stuck with me, and it will stick with me forever now, is, man, like, leave people alone when they're doing shit like that, and they're posting whatever might look like vanity to you, might not be vanity to somebody else. Because he said to me, there's a big difference, because vanity is a selfish aspect, to be that vain is selfish, because it very much does mean that you only have your own intentions at heart, like, predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
So that is technically selfish, But he said to me, there's a big fucking difference between self-love and selfish. At the moment you identify between those two, you will learn that a lot of the stuff that you do for yourself isn't selfish. Spending every single day going to the gym for an hour and a half, that's not selfish, man. That's self-love. And if somebody's looking at you and not doing that, or not doing anything for themselves that involves doing something for themselves other than criticizing what you do, that shit is selfish. Because that shit is intentionally you feeling bad for your own lifestyle and taking it out on somebody else. That's fucking selfish. Whilst that person is committing self-love, who are they harming? Why does it offend you what the fuck they're doing for themselves? If I go to the gym purposely to train to come and kick your ass, then that's fucking selfish because I'm not being a dick, But when I'm in there, I don't give a fuck about anybody but myself. I'm there for myself. Like, I'm not hurting anybody.
You're competing against yourself.
And stuff like that. And people love to hide behind the screen and give their fucking unwanted opinions on what people are doing that doesn't even affect their life. That shit is selfish. So if you're there feeling proud for yourself and you're learning something from the minor setback you had today, that's self-love and improvement, man. That's
also a very important thing is anyone who becomes judgmental of other people's success and likes to make negative comments. That's because your success or whatever it is you're putting out there made that person feel uncomfortable about their own achievements.
I'd love to know a list of all the people of all this stuff, because especially with what we do, trust me, I don't feel like I have any enemies in life. I don't personally use the word hatred on any soul that I've ever met. Maybe a long time ago, my thought process would have been like that. Mm-hmm. But people, you can't go through life pleasing everybody. So undoubtedly, there's probably people that watched my last fight secretly, even if to my face they might be nice, secretly want me to get my ass kicked for whatever reason. And I love that shit. I'd love to have a list of that, because that is fucking more motivation than you could ever imagine. I love that. Like, some people, they just can't deal with the fact that they're not liked. And I'm just like, why? You're wasting so much energy concerning yourself with how you should live your life to appease somebody else, when you should be living your life to just please yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly that. And the thing is as well, like I said, the important thing is at the end of the day, you're competing against yourself. For me, I look at just speaking, this is how I can relate to this, is looking and observing my own, at least just the physical transformation side of things, where I've lost about like 40 kilos, but probably more than that, because I've actually put on a very substantial amount of muscle as well since I started doing this. And I look at myself, and I look at myself with pride. I know my weaknesses. I know what could be better, but I also know exactly where I've really smashed it, and I've fucking done great. And when I look at myself, I am always filled with pride, because to me, I feel like I look at my body, I look at my life, in fact, and I look at my own mind, and I look at it as if, these shows where like they find a house that's a complete utter shithole, and then they like completely turn the place around. They sort of renovate it. That's how I feel. So when I'm taking a step back and I'm taking a selfie in the gym, that's not to say, hey, look at me. That's me taking a step back to look at the house which I've worked my fucking ass off in building.
For sure, for sure. And you know what? Like, what people don't understand is like, everybody can do this to a degree. It doesn't need to be as extreme because not everybody requires that. But like, it takes a fucking a long time to fuck yourself up. It takes years to fuck yourself up, right? If you, let's say you don't have a medical condition, or any shit like that affecting your lifestyle, you just fucking lived a really shit lifestyle. Your body is a fucking, it's a punch bag. It can take some serious fucking abuse, right? It takes years to get to that state, but it takes weeks to notice a difference, and it takes months to, like, your transformation. That's like 6 stone, bro. Like, it would have taken you fucking years to put on 6 stone. It took you like fucking months to take it off. But the problem, our brains go like this. Oh, well, I've been like this for 10 years. What they're not saying to themselves is, it took me 10 years to fuck myself up. But what they don't realize is in 10 months, they can reverse so much of that. Mm. But their minds go to it took me 10 years to fuck myself up. I'm not going to be able to fix myself for 10 years, so I may as well not bother.
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that. Although I should clarify that, I mean, for me, the number of the weight might have come off in a shorter period of time, but the transformation that took about 5 years. It's just coming up to 5 years now, actually, since I started.
About the weight.
Yeah.
All you did was what a lot of people wouldn't do. A lot of people in that situation, they just want to lose the weight, and then a lot of them will just kind of like maintain and just live that healthier, lower weight lifestyle.
Yeah.
What you did is you stripped the weight, and then you became an athlete. That's what you did. You became an athlete.
Essentially. But the thing is, as well, this is now back to
that takes years.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle change. It's not. It's change of habits. It's not just, I'm gonna do this for a little while and then afterwards I'll relax. Yeah, it's the same mentality of, let's work all year, and just so you can go on holidays and be a pig, like, it's like, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But the thing that I was trying to say is that, again, the only thing that allowed me to maintain this just on a mental level is the fact that I've competed against myself. Because think of this, right? This will probably fuck with you as well, because I don't think many people even know how young the guy is. But Chris Bumstead, the classic physique bodybuilding champion on Mr. Olympia, I mean, he's completely blew up in the last couple of years or so. Like, his social media following is insane, and he seems like a very cool guy. But he's 4 months younger than me, right? And he has like the guy is 27 years old, and he has the most jacked physique I think you could see of anyone, like, ever, at least as far as I'm concerned. So if I wanted to compare myself to someone like that, I would feel like absolute shit. I'd be like, oh no, like, this guy's younger than me. Look at how fucking great he looks. Obviously minus the steroids and things like that, but that's still impeccable hard work. I don't do that. I look at myself. If I see that, I think, oh fuck, that's cool. Good for him. Let me see what I can do. Not that because I want to become that, but rather because I want to become the best version of myself. And I think a lot of people miss this sometimes.
It's impossible. I get clients, and they sometimes go to me, and they say, "Oh, I want." And I say to them, "Listen, man." Or they see something that I do, like, I'm like, "Listen, you can all learn how to do the stuff that these people do. You can lift the same way. You can do it." I say to people, "You're never ever going to be like me. Why? Because you're fucking not me. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make you the best, or help you make the best version of what you can be. So like when we do the fight stuff, you know, I've had multiple coaches for different aspects of training, and the way you become anything, whether it be weightlifter or whether it be a fighter or anything like that, or whether it be a musician, is you take good things from all the influences in your life. Some things I'm not good at, so I don't take that from them. You know, I take it, I study it, I can't break it down, I can't figure it out. I move on, I adapt it, and I change it slightly. And what you do is you take these little pieces of a puzzle of all these people, and you build the version of you around them. You know, I'm sure you have guitar players that influenced you, vocalists that influence you, drummers that influence me. I steal shit, not steal shit, but I try to emulate certain things from various people, and then the sound that comes out, that is the influence of all these people, but it's me. The same as
Exactly.
with the training. The same as with the training. So if you're hunting, like people say, oh, I want something to look like that, bro. You're never gonna look like that because you don't have the genetic makeup. You don't have the genetic makeup, or you don't have, you know, this height, or you don't have this reach, or you don't have these things, man. We have gifts and we have weaknesses, and our job is to try and make our weaknesses as close to on par with our gifts as possible. You know, and that's never ever going to be 50-50. It's never going to be close to it. Or in some cases, it'll be very close to it. But it'll never be on par. It's impossible. So you can only work with what you have and build around that, and grow in those areas and put it together and discover what pieces you have. Because the second you try to hunt so much to be like somebody else, you lose exactly that individual code that you have sitting inside you, and will never accomplish the full potential to what you're trying to achieve, because you're limiting yourself by trying to emulate instead of taking knowledge, adapting it, and moving on. You know, like it's very fun. And when I learned that in training, that massively helped me. And you know what? The most I learned about that was actually during the lockdown, when I had so much time to fucking practice drums and just do some basic shit, like basic shit old theory, or even just like playing slowly to a metronome, just like stripping everything back. Like, I don't need to blast at fucking 230 BPM for 10 fucking minutes. No, let's slow everything down. Let's add some grooves. Let's adapt things. Like, let's play with other things, and add it to my routine and see what comes from it. You know, like that's just one example of like just taking something, taking little pieces and putting it together, rather than just be like, oh, I have to fucking play like this because this is how this guy does it, and that's fucking sick. Guess what? I'm never gonna be like that because I'm not that fucking guy, you know. Just like you said about the physique, the bodybuilder guy, never gonna look like him, bro. It's not gonna fucking happen. But what you can do is go, let me look at his fucking training regime. Holy fuck, that's tough. If I can achieve some of that, cool. Like, that's the closest you're ever gonna feel to being that person, is if you can turn and go, yeah, I fucking did. I can do what he fucking does. Like, I do it. I don't look the fucking same, but I fucking did it. You know what I'm saying?
But it's also having enough confidence and integrity, but also authenticity of your own, to trust that whatever it is that you're doing yourself, that you give your best time and effort to, you can create something unique that even the guys that you look up to don't even have, you know. And I think that's kind of how I think. You mentioned about guitar playing and performing music. That's my approach. I have many heroes within music, and there are people that I respect, that I have tremendous respect for, and I would never compare my own work to theirs. You know, like it's not a matter of comparison, but I also recognize that none of those people, that I'm not those people, but none of those people are me. And yeah.
Exactly that, brother. 100%.
Wise exchange, brother. Very good.
Been a pleasure, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Dinko, thank you so much for jumping on, man. I've enjoyed.
Sorry that we limited the time. Maybe once we release some new music, we can catch up in like less than like maybe next summer or something like that. We can let some time go by, see what happens, and then we can have a real sit down and do it properly.
I think that sounds good to me, because there's a whole lot left that I still want to talk to you about, but yeah.
I'm almost fucking pissed off now that I have to cut this short.
I feel you, man. Yeah. There's a lot, especially. Yeah. I think
Chapter 1. We'll call it Chapter 1. One of many, I hope.
Yes, I hope so too, man. Now that we've talked, I'm thinking, how the fuck did I not get you on here sooner? So it's like everything we talked about goes perfectly in line with everything else I've talked about on this show.
Schedule, and what we might have to do is like sit down and just see where it goes, for how long it goes, and then you can just release it in sections, because no one's going to listen to us for like 6 fucking hours.
You never know. Those have actually been some of the best episodes on here, I think, and that's the whole purpose of it, is that it's limitless, it's not censored, it's just stripped down and honest, and that's what I enjoy doing about it, and I think that's what the people who listen enjoy as well.
I've done some before, and they're definitely scripted things, which is cool. It's nice because you kind of know you're just gonna get asked, questions. And but I'm definitely the type of person, you can ask me one question, and as you notice, like I snowball shit, because there's so much stuff that can just be connected and be relevant. 1 hour was definitely a bad idea. But I didn't want to postpone you again, because I think that's rude. And if I say I'm going to give somebody time, I'd like to stick to my word and give them time. So I'd rather have like an hour a preview of what will be more to come.
No, I appreciate it, man. I think that, first of all, I appreciate your time, and I thank you for being here, regardless of the schedule and everything. And I think that our listeners will be walking away with plenty of knowledge just shared within the last hour or so. And I think it will be good whenever we catch up. I'll probably be seeing you soon at some shows anyway, I'm sure.
No doubt.
Amazing. Right, Dinko, thank you so much for jumping onto the podcast, man. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
And is there anything that you'd like for people to come and check out of yours that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so we're like I said, we're Vehement are predominantly finishing up. So like, actually, we have pretty much not secret. We have pretty much almost finished writing. So the more pre-production work is happening just to finalize some things. Once that's done, we can start booking and looking at to actually going to record the album. But in terms of like promo-wise, obviously, big thank you to you guys for stepping in on short notice end of last year. Winter or
anytime.
So now we're planning to put on that again. Funnily enough, I don't normally play the shows that I put on, but the guys were like, we should play the February Winter Assault. So it's February the 4th, I believe. And we're going to showcase like more new material at that show. And I've got some more bands to announce for that soon. And obviously the big fiasco of like when I was launching Doomsday Fest, the bigger version at Concord 2 and stuff, obviously all that fucking went tits up thanks to fucking COVID and all that shit. And obviously the times are definitely harder for gigs at the moment. But, we sorted all that out. Obviously we had to cancel that one. So what we decided to do is we're bringing it back end of May next year. And we're just going to go back to how it was, at the smaller venue, and still going to bring some international acts over and stuff like that, and just keep it where it was until we kind of like rebuild, some confidence within ourselves, and just do it where we were really comfortable doing it. So the Doomsday Fest will return next year as well, which took a lot actually, man. Like I was so like deflated after being knocked back twice with them lockdowns and stuff, and I was just like, what, fuck this anymore. But that whole philosophy, man, like what we spoke about, no losing, just learning, so we learned a lot about ourselves and what we can do and where we made mistakes, and we just don't repeat the same motions. And if that fails, then that's cool. I'm happy with something new failing rather than beating my head against the same wall. So we go again, and we will do it exactly how we did it before when it was completely successful, and hopefully I can't see it failing again. So unless they fucking turn the switch and switch the planet off again. So in that case, man, I'm not even gonna stop. I'm gonna go chain myself to some fucking venue and just like do some fucking just not leave, So,
Listen, how many people in the UK do you know who have actually got experience of playing illegal underground metal shows?
Bro, I'm happy to do it in the street with you, man. Fuck them. They'll have to take
it.
How many of us can they arrest,
Let's do it. Bring the fucking Molotovs, man. We ain't stopping anytime soon.
Love it, brother. Thank you so much again for your time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening to the show. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations. Cheers.